Hello friends and my young scientists, welcome back to another Mad Science Monday. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about oxidation. Now, it's warming up out there, which means it's bicycle season. But we all know we got to bring our bicycles in before it rains, because what happens if we leave our bicycle outside? Well, it'll rust. Rust is a real problem. Gets that orangey color on it, the metal starts to fall apart, and our bikes break. Well, that's all part of oxidation. And today, we're going to do some oxidation, but super duper fast. Because normally, you leave your bike outside and it takes a long time to rust, but we're going to try rusting at a really fast pace. So, for today's experiment, you are going to need some salt, you are going to need some vinegar, also known as acetic acid, and you are going to need some hydrogen peroxide, also known as H2O2. The last thing you're going to need is something to rust. So, I've got with me some pennies, I've got a copper pipe, I've got some steel wool. You can use just about any kind of metal object you find that's not aluminum or gold, and it'll rust all the same way with this. So what we're first going to do is we're going to take whatever it is we want to oxidize. I'm going to use just a couple of my pennies here first. And you're going to want to put that in a container with some hydrogen peroxide, some H2O2. I'm going to give a pretty generous pour of H2O2, my nice clean pennies, and then I'm just going to dump some salt in here. Dump a good amount of salt, and then I'm going to give it a slosh. And what you will see is over time, it really only takes a couple of minutes, over time, those pennies, or copper, or steel wool, or whatever it is you got, over the next couple of minutes, they will start to turn color. They'll change colors as they oxidize, as they rust. So your pennies will go kind of a greenish, bluish, blackish color, and any iron that you have or steel you have, it'll go kind of an orangey color, and over time, that'll get gross. So I'm going to set this one over here while it settles. Alright friends, we are back. It's been a couple of minutes and I have let my metal sit here in the hydrogen peroxide solution for a little while. And I went ahead and also do a little bit with what used to be steel wool. Now our pennies are here. You may have noticed there was some bubbling that happened, a little bit of fizzing that happened while this was going on. Well, that is all the oxygen and hydrogen kind of bubbling up. And now, what used to be nice, pretty pennies are all dirty and brown and gungy and gross. And likewise let me get that in a second. Likewise, for my steel wool, it's been bubbling in this really nasty, soupy, goopy nonsense. And a whole bunch of iron oxide has sat in the bottom of my solution. And now I've got this clump of rusted grossness. It is nasty. Now, what happened is, the extra bit of oxygen on that hydrogen peroxide, it's always wanting to get out of the hydrogen peroxide, and iron and copper love to take oxygen molecules and rust as quickly as they can. They love to oxidize. So that's what happened. All that metal oxidized as quickly as it could. Now, what we can do is the opposite reaction. We can remove all that oxide by mixing up things a little bit differently. So I'm going to take my penny, which is now all gross and brown. And I'm going to take my steel wool, which is also very gross. And this time, I'm going to mix it with a little bit of vinegar, which contains acetic acid. So, I'm going to use a healthy dosage of vinegar. And then, again, I'm going to use some salt. Now, you may be wondering, what's with the salt? I use salt in both of these experiments. Well, the salt is an electrolyte, which it's kind of like a super fast highway for those electrons in the molecules to bounce around, which makes all of these reactions happen much, much faster with those electrolytes. So, just by putting a little bit of vinegar and a little bit of salt to increase the electrolytes to make my reaction happen more quickly, just with a little bit of that, it takes almost no time, and already my steel wool is starting to go back to its regular gray color. There's still some oxide there, but we can already see it's starting to remove the oxidation from my steel wool. And likewise, if I were to be able to find that penny, which is not easy to do, my penny has already started to go back to almost a pinkish color. It's a little dull, but hey, it's a lot better than the gross brown it used to be. Now it's kind of gone sort of a pinkish color. So you can try this at home as many times as you want on the same piece of metal. Eventually it'll rust away down to nothing. But make sure you ask your parents before you rust everything in your house. Try your own experiments at home and put them down in the comments below. I would love to see your at-home chemistry. And until next week, I have been Dr. Jupiter of Mad Science, and I'll see you for next Mad Science Monday.